Dear friends, I would like to take you back into time, and I would like to go back to the 21st of July, 1989. That was the day the Kenyan government took one of their very best decisions. The 21st of July in 1989, I was appointed as Senior Research Officer for the Kenya Marine and Fishery Research Institute. And that was not the best decision they took. That still has to come. I was arriving at the Research Institute of 7,000 employees, and I was one of the 3 with a master's degree. And I became, from one to the other day, okay, I'm ignoring you. And from one to the other day, I became deputy director of a research institute, while the day before I was still at university. Now, the very best decision the Kenyan government took was that on that very same day, the 21st of July, 1989, they appointed Richard Leakey as the head of Kenya Wildlife Service. Richard was the son of the famous Leakey family who was discovering the old human skeletons in Olduvai. And up to that moment, he had been the director of the National History Museum in Nairobi, and he became responsible for Kenya Wildlife Service. And he said, we have to change a number of things in a drastic way. And let's see, he was the one who made sure that ivory was on the red list and that poaching was stopped in Kenya. It led to an enormous revival of tourism over there. And he took me at a certain moment to Masai Mara. That was problematic because he was systematically walking 3 times faster than I did. And so it was extremely difficult to keep up with him. And he said, Jurgen, there are 2 extreme important elements if we want to make nature conservation successful in the nature reserves of Kenya. The first one, we have to stop poaching. And so we have to fight poachers with the same weapons as they have. And that was heavy machinery. The second thing, if we want to have an agreement with the local tribes, we have to respect their private property rights with each and every element related to that. A second date, which is extremely important for me, is the 15th of February of 2016. That was the moment that I started to work for the European Landowners Organization. And it was only the week later that I was summoned on behalf of ELO to the European Commission by someone called Umberto Delgado Rosa. And he said, we have a funding opportunity for private landowners. And I was not the only one sitting on the table. Next to me was sitting a certain Tilman Disselhoff, someone I never met before. But I have to say there was an instant match between the 2 of us. The task of the Commission was clear. You are going to write together, the European Landowners Organizations on one side, Eurosite on the other side. You're going to write a project together on private land conservation. We started to work. We have been writing on it for a couple of months. And in the very last week, the boards of both organizations said, we are not going to work with the other one. And so in the end, we had 2 projects filed. The Commission made a choice. ELCN was born. The year after, there was another call for another project on private land conservation. And let's say in the text there was a small change in wording because this is a project specifically for organizations representing individual private landowners. And so ELO participated and we got the project Land is Forever. In the 4 years of those projects, I was regularly in contact with Tilman, and in one or the other way, we were able to link the two projects on a number of occasions. And so 4 years later, we got a phone call from the Commission, and I was sitting again with Humberto Delgado Rosa and Tilman on my side, and he said, look, I have an interest to prolong this project, but on the strict condition that it's a one project and not two. And I have to say that was a time that some people within the Commission said, this is never going to work. But okay, Tilman and me, we were writing again a project, and we got a project. And then something absolutely magical happened, because at ELO we had Anne-Sophie, on the Euro side we had Carolina. And that was a perfect match. And I do think that that match has maybe done more for private land conservation than anything else, because they were working together the way that it was intended by the Commission, I would say 4 years before. I have to say that when I was speaking yesterday at the Forum for the Future of Agriculture on transformative change, I tried to make it clear that transformative change is not happening if you start to put commas on other places in, for instance, the Common Agriculture Policy. The Common Agriculture Policy was made at a period after the Second World War that there was a problem with food security. Today we have completely other challenges. We have climate change, we have biodiversity loss, and if we want to tackle that, we should not do that with an instrument that is 80 years old. We have to rethink how we are acting at the level of agriculture. But at the same time, we have to do exactly the same thing within nature conservation. We are still working with tools of 50 years ago. And while we are discussing new tools and new legislation, and whether it's passing or not, what is missing today is financing for nature conservation. It's time that there is a real budget at the level of Europe which is taking care that we can do what we need to do to stop the loss of biodiversity. That too is transformative change. And then I have to say, if I look at the present project, the European Networks for Private Land Conservation, and if I look back, what did we do during the 4 past years? The only thing we did can be described by a single letter. The letter S. We do not have private networks for private land conservation. I think today we have a single network for private land conservation. That's thanks to you, that's thanks to Carolina, to Anne-Sophie, to Tilman, who is not here, Harm. I have to say it's a pleasure to see that we have the president of NABU, because that's a message for us. I think that this was an extremely successful project. Thanks to all of you, I would say a very, very big thank you. What we have accomplished is what many people thought we would never be able to do. Thanks to you. Thank you.